readers, a lot of you have finished your first challenge text for nonfiction, and that's awesome. We've done a lot of strategies to help us figure out the tough parts that are going to come our way. Now, today I want to teach you about a skill that's really important for nonfiction readers, and that's the skill where you're going to tell back what you learned. Reading nonfiction is all about reading to learn, and it's about allowing us to become experts in something that we're studying. So if you think about that, you can think about a really important skill is going to be able to figure out what that you learned do you need to tell someone else? What do you need to show that you've learned so that you can teach someone else all about the topic that you're studying? So a skill that comes really in handy for that is called summarizing. We're going to practice that today in a variety of ways. We're going to do a little summary boot camp, so get ready to jump right in. So you might at first think that summarizing seems pretty basic, maybe even pretty obvious. You just have to kind of say back what the author says, right? What it says in the text. But turns out summary's a little bit more complicated. To really summarize well, you need three big things. You need to know what to include in your summary. You need to know how to put in your own words the author's points. And you need to know how the details support the author's main idea. All those things together make a good summary. So I want us to be able to do some of this together, so that's the first thing we're going to do. So you learned in third grade that after reading a chunk of text, nonfiction text especially, that readers pause and retell or summarize the author's points. And you learned a great way of modeling that for yourself using your own hand to do what is showing on your screen right now, the main idea and the key supporting details. Remember that you pointed to your palm for the main idea of the author, and then you used each finger to show one of their key supporting details. That's really good work to help yourself summarize what's going on in the nonfiction text. Now in fourth grade we've added some other things to help us with our understanding of nonfiction, and that's the text structures and how they play a part in helping us know what we would do if we're trying to summarize a text. So keep in mind what we talked about when we talked about chronological versus problem solution versus cause and effect, compare and contrast. They set up differently. We still need to figure out what's the main idea and the different points, but keeping text structure in our minds will help us be more successful with that. Are you ready to give it a try? So I'm going to read you a section from our Everything Weather book. The section is Here Comes the Sun. And as I read this section aloud to you, will you be thinking about, so what's the main idea and what are some supporting details? The sun is Earth's 5 billion-year-old friend. How hot is it? Really hot. The sun has a core of gases that reaches a temperature of 27 million degrees Fahrenheit, or 15 million degrees Celsius. Here on Earth, we are 93 million miles, 150 million kilometers, away from the sun. But that's still close enough to feel the burn. The sun provides most of the heat and light for the planet, but it is not the only factor in the weather. All those millions of miles from the sun, our planet spins on an axis. The rotation causes moving air to change direction. Add more movement to air that is rising, falling, and changing temperatures, and you end up with a wild weather ride. When it comes to causing weather, the sun, land, and air are partners. The sun heats large patches of land, which warm the air above them. The wind then moves the warm air around, sometimes bumping cooler patches out of the way. The air's constant shifting, rising, falling, heating, and cooling make the weather very unpredictable. Think about that. So what's the main idea the author's trying to tell you, and what would be some supporting details for that? So I want you to pause the video and make some notes for yourself. Jot down what is this mostly about? That's the only thing you need to focus on right now. What's the main idea? What's this mostly about? If you want to jot down some particular sentences from this passage, that'd probably be really helpful for you. So pause it and take care of that and then come back to me. So here's what I came up with for a possible main idea from this text. The sun and earth work together to create our weather. Did you come up with something like that, but in your own words? I hope so. So then that could be a great main idea, but when we're trying to summarize, we want to make sure that we don't just leave it at that, but we need to give credit to the author. So we could word that in a couple different ways. We might say the main idea of this passage is the author's thoughts are, or maybe in this passage the author's point is. So I did that work as well, and here's what I came up with for that. In this passage, Kathy Fergang, who's the author of the book, by the way, explains that the sun and earth work together to create our weather. I think that does a pretty good job getting our summary started. So if we have our main idea, what comes next? You guessed it, supporting details. So now that you're in 4th grade and you're looking for those supporting details, you want to consider that text structure like we said earlier. So when you read the text, what text structure is there? What do you see? I hope that you work yourself through and you can see that the sun and earth are causing the weather. A little cause and effect. That's where I landed. So when I think about that, that helps me to frame how I should be able to find my supporting details. So I'm going to look at the text again, and that's what I'd like you to do as well. And I want you to think about, so what supporting details really support in this passage? Kathy Fergang explains that the sun and earth work together to create our weather. So here's the text again for you so you can figure out what some supporting details might be. Pause on this screen while you write some down for yourself. Make sure they support that the sun and earth work together to create our weather. Come back to me after you have some written down. Well, here's what I came up with. How about you? Are you pretty close to this? We have the same main idea that we looked at a minute ago, and now we've added 3 different points which support what we've said. So the sun heats the land, which warms the air. Wind moves warm air around. And the Earth's rotation also causes air to change temperatures. Those are 3 of the details that I picked out that I thought really supported what I was trying to say, really supported the author's main idea of that text. Okay, so your next challenge is to take that nice structure we have there and turn it into your full summary. A summary is usually like a paragraph. So pause it, work on that, and then we'll check in on that in a second. Okay, so here's one swipe at it. In this passage, Kathy Fergang explains that the sun and earth work together to create the weather. One detail that supports this is that the sun heats the land on earth, which warms the air. In addition, Kathy Fergang points out that wind moves air around. A final detail is that the Earth's rotation causes air to move and change directions, which then causes change in temperatures. So I hope you notice several things in that paragraph. There come those transition words again. That sure helped, right, to pull all the thoughts together? And did you really feel the cause and effect with the way that was worded? Okay, so summarizing, a skill that's really necessary, it's going to take some practice. So you're going to work on that in your book that you're reading now for nonfiction, and we'll be checking in on that again tomorrow.